Maggi Thorne is with us today. Oh, let me turn this off. Okay. So, hi, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So we have our season 4 is actually starting next week. And we were like, oh, thank you. And we were like, wait a second, though. The finale of Ninja Warrior is on Monday. We have to get Maggi. We have to do a special episode. We have to make this happen. So thank you so much for joining us. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. It's been a tremendous year. Season 9 was a great year. I don't take it lightly. I know at any given time it could have been someone else, and I'm very grateful for this year and how I was able to progress in my obstacle training for American Ninja Warrior, and especially to be at Vegas. It's something that I went and I participated as a tester last year.
Oh, wow.
And it was really my goal to come back as a competitor, and to see that come to light. I mean, just, man, God be the glory for that.
A tester too, but of Jack Daniels. So I really applaud your commitment.
Yeah, her Vegas testing is very, very different.
My obstacles look much different.
So I was thinking, because I watch every single second of Ninja Warrior with my kids and my husband, whether they like it or not. And you're the only mom that's ever gone this far. Is that correct?
Well, there have been, Zanique earlier this year got to the wall. She didn't make it up the wall, but Zanique Lovett was from LA. She's a tremendous competitor, great person, and she was this close. So there has not been a mom to make it up the warp wall yet, but I tell you what, as strong as these ladies are, and as many moms are starting to get involved and push themselves and be an example for their kid, season 10, there's going to be a mom up the wall, hands down.
Do you think it matters that, and I don't mean to take away from what you just said, but do you think it matters that you're a mom? Can't you just be a warrior, like a fierce warrior? Do you want them to categorize you as a mom versus just Maggi?
You bet I do. Yeah, I wear my mom badge. That's like a badge of honor. You bet. I mean, I think we can all be warriors. I definitely adds a lot of different elements to training to be able to take my kids. I coach their teams, and I'm very involved with their schoolroom mom. So I think there's a little bit of a different strategy for training here to be able to fit it in, but it's possible. The commitment's possible. Maybe a little less Netflix, a little more training.
Right. How have your kids responded?
What do you think of that? A little less Netflix, a little more training, Kim?
Nope.
I do like House of Cards. I have a House of Cards fan.
Oh, I just binged that. How do your kids respond to you being on this incredible journey?
You know, I've been active since they've been young. And so for them, it's really nothing different. It's nothing out of the ordinary. To them, I'm not like a mom on TV. I'm just mom. And I've always kind of had these great goals. I feel like that's what God's made me to do. And I see them doing that too, because I know I can tell them everything I want in my life. But what they see me do, I see that reflect back tenfold. You know, it's like that ripple where you drop it in water, or for you, tequila in Vegas. And, you know, it has that effect. It's great, and they love it. And it's a lot of fun for us. They ninja train night and day. They out train me. They have way more energy than I do.
So how did you go? So you were an award-winning runner, like constant medals and titles and all of that. How do you go from running to, that's a totally different training system here. And now the upper body strength in this show is unbelievable. So how do you go from one to the other?
Rock climbing has been a large part of my training by far. Definitely as a background with a runner, I didn't have to do a lot of upper body. It wasn't necessarily a part of my training. I wasn't a gymnast or a pole vaulter. So I'm really behind on that spectrum. But in terms of how I've been able to train in the rock climbing gyms, that's probably helped my grip the most. And then just starting to learn different things and push my body in different ways. And then overall strength is being able to challenge it in that way too. So I can't look at it as behind. I just have to trust that everything has its perfect timing. And I believe in that. And I know I'm going to get there. And I just have patience with it.
What's the mental training that you have to go through?
I'm a little fierce. I think that it might be my biggest attribute personally for the mental training. I do have a background in OCR, which is obstacle racing. I did a 24-hour race, which is called the world's toughest mudder. I ran 75 miles and completed 330 obstacles in 24 hours. So,
oh my gosh.
And really what that was is like on purpose. I believe every person should challenge themselves in a way that scares you. I had only trained for it for a couple months. Everybody told me I was nuts. Everything I do in my life, people are like, you're nuts, you're nuts. And I'm like, I know, it's great. Like, but I think we should accept that and celebrate it and be scared. I'm actually scared of heights. There's a lot of things I'm scared of, and I do it because I'm like, I need to push myself in this way. I think we grow from it. I think we learn from it, and it's a cool experience.
Was there one challenge in American Ninja Warrior that was the one that you had the most fear about that you conquered?
I felt really nervous this year with how many people showed up for Kansas City. I had a huge, like 30 people drive and invest in their time financially. And I didn't want to be a big letdown. And those nerves that first night, I was really slow on some of the obstacles. I just had to learn to trust myself again. You know, it'd been a hard year, and I was just really wanted to excel, but I wanted to make people proud too. And then the second night, I just felt so much more comfortable in my skin, and I was so happy that everyone was there. It was a really cool experience.
Well, I think that, you know, as much as there are a lot of Ninja Warrior fans who listen to our show, but also, you know, some who may not know the show as much, one of the reasons that I felt really attached and interested in talking with you is your ability. You're so resilient, you know, and you're so, you have this ability to overcome that I think a lot of people are inspired by. And I know that on the show, they told your story a little bit and, you know, that you've had a tough year, as you said. And so how would you share with our audience, how do you go from, like, you know, you're going through a divorce and you have 3 kids and, you know, you've got this like physical challenge. How do you keep getting out of bed and moving forward?
For me, I felt like, number one, I have hope. My faith is a big part of my life. And so I felt really grateful for that. And can you hear me okay? Because I know I got Espanol going up above.
Somebody's got to get their flight to Raleigh-Durham. I'm just saying.
Of course, that's great timing. But anyways, I really tried to find small, measurable things, because some of the big things, just to be really honest, became very overwhelming. And I know that I feel like is a common characteristic from people who are going through a hard time or going through divorces. Things that used to be normal become this enormous obstacle because emotionally you're just drained and you're sad, and it's a lot to grasp onto. But I knew for me, in my mind, first and foremost, every day I'm like, this isn't forever. I'm going to allow myself time to grieve. It's like a death. You lose your best friend, your husband. Like, it's, you know, these things where once you make that decision to move forward with a divorce, it's hard. And I don't think anybody looks at their life and says, oh, this is what I dream my life to be. And at some point, it's not necessarily letting go of those dreams, but allowing yourself to be shaped differently. And knowing that, like, let's say, take a diamond bracelet. If someone took a diamond bracelet and they threw it in the trash, it doesn't lose its value. So despite that, you can feel like you're in this garbage of life. Your value is never lost. You're just as brilliant. You shine just as much. And it's reminding yourself of those things that, hey, you're going to be a rock star. You're going to get through it. And then keeping a small group of friends close by, tons of time in prayer. And this is going to sound so dumb, but making my bed every day like was so powerful for me, because I every day I started off accomplishing something, and then I just allowed small things into my life in the different areas that were just little ways to empower myself.
There was a great video that was going around recently about the gentleman and the surgeon or whatever, very high ranking official that talked about making your bed. And then if you can have failures all day long, but when you get home, you're reminded that you still accomplished that one task. I have not taken his advice. My room is a complete disaster, but I appreciate that there is something really prideful in those little baby steps that I think most of us, as you said, are afraid to conquer. I mean, there's something that gets in the way.
And it's been really amazing when I have to look at this journey and I'm like, okay, number one, I'm very grateful that I've been able to have my run air. There's a lot of ninjas who deserve airtime, a lot of amazing, talented American Ninja Warriors. But then I have to take a step back and say, well, how is this going to be used? You know, my goal is to impact people. So what does that look like? And the messages that have been coming in, and people who are just like, I don't know what to do with my life right now. And I'm like, you know what, you don't have to. So it's been amazing connecting with people in that struggle, in that walk. It's, you know, falling off the obstacle, you're in the water, but guess what? It's only 4 foot deep, and you're going to get up and get out and try again.
Right. I think that's a fascinating analogy, because we are so worried about falling in the water in life that we don't even consider how deep it is. You know, we just know that, like, oh, I can't do that. And so we live in this fear, and we're not able to leap because we're afraid we're going to drown.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
what's the support been amongst all the other contestants or warriors? What's that culture like?
Oh, it's amazing. The Ninja Warrior community is absolutely amazing. And actually, I'm at the airport with another ninja right now. This is Splash Brown.
Hey,
I'm here for Mike. The reason I am in North Carolina is for Mike Cook's Ultimate Backyard Warrior. We have about 200 ninjas from all over the country. And, you know, looking ahead, like, we have the Wolfpack Tour coming up in November in Colorado. And we have our Wolfpack Pro team. There's all these awesome ninjas. And we're going to fill an arena with thousands and thousands of people who get to see that friendship, get to see the community. And it's something very special to be a part of.
Is there any, I know this is like awful, but I keep thinking of like Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. They're like, do you ever like want to cripple your,
oh my gosh.
No, I'm kidding. But like, how do you guys keep encouraging each other to succeed? Because somebody else succeeding potentially puts you out of the running. So how do you not Tonya Harding on your teammates?
She doesn't have a Jeff Gillooly.
You know what? No,
I think that analogy, but come on.
Yeah, I do leave my baton sticks at home.
Okay.
It's an interesting question, because it can, like, I was on the bubble almost for Kansas City a little bit, and I was one of the first competitors actually to go for finals. So after I went, I had to wait for all the other women to go, and you're just like, it's hard because, number one, we're community and we want to cheer for everyone. So when they fall, I mean, you're sad, but excited, and the camera's in your face, and it's like this weird emotion. You're like, I'm cheering, but you fell. I'm really sorry, but I'm excited.
I know that's what I'm saying. It's sort of like the Olympics when you're watching, like, you want your teammates to be successful, but that extra landing could bump you off the podium. I mean, but I would imagine that kind of competition and is encouraging each of you to do better, but there has to be that moment where you're like, yes, I beat them, you know? I mean, and I hope that's healthy, but does it get in the way?
To some degree, people probably have it and just don't talk about it. For me, it is weird because, like I said, all those other ladies were going, and I truly want to see people succeed in life, whether it's a ninja, a small business in Lincoln, Nebraska, my friends. I want to see people grow. And then on the other side of it, like, you want to have a chance too, but I also know that my whole life, like, my identity is an American Ninja Warrior. Well, I appreciate it and I'm glad for it. I try not to get too wrapped up in it, because next year I could trip on the steps. I mean, I could not get cast next year. So I think you just have to celebrate the moment for what it is, and then let others be a part of that celebration and also pick them up too.
Right. I remember watching you on Spartan, or I don't know the exact, forget the name of the, like, what's that? Spartan. Okay. I remember you from that. So what's the difference in between Ninja Warrior and the Spartan competitions? What's the difference?
There's a lot of blood and scrapes and cuts. The Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge pushed my limits this year. I was drained. It was really hard. My legs, my whole body was just torn apart, because you kind of just have to forget about everything else and push through for a mile, whether you're jumping off stuff or you're carrying gigantic beams and pushing things. So it's really crazy. It was a huge challenge. I loved my team. Being with Kevin and Michelle and Lance and Megan, being the ninja team. I mean, it was something pretty special. We bonded so well, and we definitely, all of us spent a lot of time actually strategizing. So it was pretty cool.
I mean, that's definitely a totally different type of experience. And so, you know, when you get yourself geared up mentally for either one, you know, Ninja Warrior or Spartan, you know, is it the same kind of motivation and self-talk? Like, what's the difference?
So for Spartan, I feel regardless that we have strategy, I think my preparation for it's a little different. I'm a little more cautious in my training because there's 4 other people that are depending on me to be healthy when I show up and to be ready when I show up. For Ninja Warrior, it is a lot more individual, so I can maybe take a little bit more risks in how I decide to do things. I get really amped up for Spartan. Like, I don't know if anybody wants to see me running around like, you know. Ninja Warrior, I get a little more centered because you have to be so calm on the obstacles. In Spartan, you can just go, I mean,
bonkers,
yeah.
Right,
I had to shine, but I just don't think it would have turned out well right now.
Yeah. And the funny thing, I mean, you know, I come from a TV background, so I'm very familiar with, you know, casting and producing and even reality. So I think that both shows do a really good job, not only casting, but producing the show, you know. But what I was going to say to you is that, you know, a lot of the reality with like Bachelor, and I know Kim's a fan, and some of the not anymore.
I've lost my interest. Yeah.
Oh, so some of the other reality shows or unscripted, you know, they don't necessarily have the most empowering take on women and what women are capable of. So what do you think that Spartan and Ninja Warrior have kind of done for women in reality television?
How is it?
I think the producers, number one, are amazing. They're top notch. Obviously, I mean, they're getting Emmy Award nominations, which really says a lot about them in terms of how they've been able to, I think, celebrate men and women tastefully and being able to show little girls that anything's possible. You know, there's so many different body types. I think, I mean, in general, we're kind of muscular, but there's definitely some different body types for American Ninja Warrior. So being able to see all of those things celebrated and highlighted and empowered, it's kind of like that female heroine superhero type of thing. I think it's amazing for little girls.
Yeah, I think, you know, but speaking of the producing, are you okay there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Kim's having a coughing fit
I'm
over
trying
there.
to be polite, but I'm like wanting to hack it out.
This is how people know we're live. That's all. But I think that when it comes to the producing, you know, they're storytellers first and foremost. And so while the you know, the court or the obstacles are really important and showing that, you know, there's a reason that people care about the show, and that's the producing, because they pull out your stories. And, you know, on other shows, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, they sometimes you know, elevate a story that maybe is only this much of it. But what is that like to have your personal story? Because you need to have one, and you need to stand out in order to be cast and in order to be featured and, you know, and celebrated on the show. And so, you know, this year they really focused on your story and everything that you're going through right now in your life. Like, how does that feel to be putting that out there? Because otherwise, you know, maybe you wouldn't be where you are.
It felt purposeful. I thought a lot about it. I was very intentional with prayer and being able to share that and deciding to share that. And what overall talking about it in my submission video is I started to interact with a lot of the single moms, or not single moms, but, you know, other moms that were going through similar things, and they're so broken and they don't know where to go next, and they don't feel empowered anymore, and they don't feel valuable. And I just started to look at all the women around me, and I felt like, I mean, this is just in my city. This is just in my community. And what does this look like on a bigger scale? Right. And I mean, I've gotten literally thousands of messages from different people who this is their phase in life. It's not what they wanted. It's not what they expected, but it's where they're at. And sometimes, like, you just don't know where to go next. It's overwhelming. And when I was talking to the producers, I was like, you know, I really don't want to glorify divorce. It was the hardest decision of my life. It's not something I want to promote. What I do want to talk about is being able to overcome and rise up. And I felt like, gratefully, that was really the story. And it's empowered a lot of other women, and men to some degree, but mostly even moms. Even if they're just at a tough time in their marriage, you know, when we talk about it, I'm like, well, what about these other things? You know, I really want people to fight for it as much as they can. And sometimes it's a really tough decision to make. But first and foremost, I think people do need to fight for their marriages. I know that sounds contradictory, but I mean, that is what I believe, and it's a hard decision to make.
Right. And what kind of lessons do you think, like what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned throughout the past? I mean, Ninja Warrior was recorded or you taped like several months ago. People don't understand,
April, yeah.
So you've been going through this stuff, Ninja Warrior and your personal life issues for quite a while now. So what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned throughout this journey?
Number one, the friendships that have grown from it, and just seeing the value in the female friendships that have grown. I don't think I did a good enough job before in valuing all the friendships that I had, and specifically being able to really pursue some other strong females with like-minded goals. I think it's so empowering. You're like the 5 closest people around you. And that, I mean, from Jessie Graff to Michelle Warnke to Barclay Sockett, Erica Cook, I mean, so many other females have been such a big part of this journey and where I'm at now. That was a huge lesson. And another one is, I'm ultimately like, I'm in control of me and my emotions and my journey. Mm-hmm. And regardless of what anyone else does or says or their thoughts or beliefs, like I have ownership of my life. And I'm just excited to turn that page for the next chapter, having that ownership, having the positive attitude, and I mean, just seeing what's next.
So how do you keep pushing yourself to the next level? I mean, Ninja Warrior, I think, forces you to keep upping the bar. How do you when do you know you've reached it, or are you never going to, do you
continue to move the bar?
Yeah.
I think God has made me to be a person that is going to be like that 101-year-old grandma doing triathlons. I think it's how I'm made. And for a long time, to be honest, I kind of fought it. And I let the people on the outside who didn't share that ambition and tell me, oh, something's wrong with you, you're missing something in your life. It quieted so much of who I was and who I was meant to be. And I've shoved that all aside. And I know who I am, and I know what I'm meant to do. And I'm not going to let anyone stop me for the rest of my life.
That's fantastic. And you've been an inspiration for so many women, so many young girls. I'm sure even your own daughters. I mean, just the way they look at you.
My kids are awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That mom dad,
the way they react to you, we as adults know what producing is, and we know how to kind of put ourselves out there, but like kids don't get that. Like, and they're bursting with pride and love for you on camera, and I'm sure in life, with everything you're doing. And I think you make such a great point that you can't necessarily tell your girls how to live their lives and what to do. I mean, you can, but who knows if they're listening. But you're leading by example, and that you're not necessarily a victim of circumstance, but sometimes you have to make new choices and continue to grow and continue to raise the bar. I think it's amazing.
They push me, they encourage me. When I see how much they love the ninja stuff, and when they outtrain me, honestly, I just can't keep up. But it's fun. It's fun to watch them grow and get excited if they have a tear on their hand, or when they're like, Mom, check out my muscles. Like, I'm getting stronger. And I probably scare the bejesus out of any other parent, because I'm very, like, I want my kids to do scary things too. I'm like, yeah, climb that wall. Like, see how far you can jump. Like, let's do it. And parents are like, oh, your kid's on top of a wall. And I'm like, I know, like, they'll figure this out. Like, we'll see if they fall from that tree. But I don't want to set a limitation and tell them something can't exist when, I could be holding them back for the rest of their life. Like, they need to figure those things out and be independent and jump off walls and jump across things that maybe look a little too far, but you just got to figure that out. I think it'll affect them.
To do a little more of that.
Were you always that way, or did this sort of evolve through your experiences and through your spirituality?
I think it's continued to evolve over time. For my kids, I used to be so enthralled with my job when I had a career. I definitely didn't do a good enough job of investing in them. And that, ultimately a lot of reasons led me to leaving my career, but I wanted to be a bigger impact on their lives, and seeing Mom in a suit every day and always being in my office. And while they did love my job, I didn't feel like I got to love them to the best of their abilities or be a bigger part of their life, coach their teams and not feel stressed out if I'm coaching, like, oh, I have this due at 8 a.m. And because my job was very, very busy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what led you to, because I think there are a lot of people who would relate to that, who are doing the 9 to 5 or the 9 to 7 or the 9 to 9 or whatever it is, that like, how were you able to make that shift in your life? Was Ninja Warrior part of that, or did you make that choice even before?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ninja Warrior was a part of it. So I had actually, long story short, my brother committed suicide, and then my best friend had. In 2011, when my best friend did, she was going through a really, really hard time in her life, and she was in and out of rehab and just really struggling. And I was angry at her for where she was at and the decision she was making. I didn't love her, where really she just needed someone to love her. And, you know, she's like, oh, I would love to see you. And I was like, I'm busy. And I was constantly telling people I'm busy. And when I found out, you know, she committed suicide, and I was at her funeral, and I'm watching her grave go into the ground, and I was like, what am I doing? You know, I can always get another job. I can't get another family. And I had to really start to evaluating the value of things, because, you know, what was I searching for every kid to have their own room? You know, what do they need? And I started traveling internationally and seeing other countries. I've been to about 8 countries now. And when you go somewhere and you see, you know, 30 kids sleep into a room, or in Costa Rica, you know, they get 1 meal a day. And it's just the perspective of everything and what I wanted them to experience and see outside of Lincoln, Nebraska. I wanted them to understand people. I wanted them to understand poverty. I wanted them to understand how they can be involved, because ultimately the strength's going to lie in them in the quality of their life when they grow up. That's up to them, not any leader or. So all of that kind of roped together. Ninja Warrior became a part of it. Pageants were a part of it, and all the other crazy stuff they've seen me do.
Well, it seems like, you know, there are no boundaries for you. There's like the possibilities are endless. So we cannot wait to see you on Monday night in the final.
Thank you.
And
I'm excited.
Also just see what Maggi Thorne does next, because I think, you know, you're unstoppable and it's such an inspiration. And, you know, now we're going to go and do some pull-ups. So.
I love it. Take a video. I will tweet you out doing pull-ups. Do it.
Oh, dang, girl.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Maggie.
And have fun and tell all the ninjas we say hello, and have a great time this weekend.
Safe travel.
Absolutely. Keep up with me on social media. I'd love to interact with anybody. It's at NBR_GVUP. And of course, I hope to see people at the Wolfpack Ninja Tour in November.
Awesome. And we'll include all of that information below the video. So thank you,
Awesome.
Maggie.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, ladies. Bye.
So she's awesome. So she's so cool.
Yeah, I always feel so lazy.
Inadequate.
Mm-hmm. And you challenged us to a pull-up. I could pull myself off the chair, but that's pretty much as far as I'm going to be pulling.
Well, it's funny because pull-ups are not something I can do.
I can do one.
You can?
Well, Sam has the bar.
Yeah, we have the bars. We have 2 bars. You
No.
guys, I am so going to challenge her after this. So we'll I'm going to. Sorry, Kim, you said it.
I think I could do one. It's been a while.
Yeah. I cannot, but I was just watching a video yesterday from Renee Seiler, who's also known as Good Enough Mother.
Yeah.
And she posted that she decided she wanted to do a pull-up, and she did one, and it took her like 31 days of just constant training, and you know, using the assist and then less assist. And
then maybe I'm not doing my pull-up right. If that's legit. I mean, not that it's not legit. Like maybe I don't know what I'm doing then.
No. I think the fact that you could do a pull, like,
maybe I'm doing it wrong. Like maybe it's not a legit pull-up. Maybe I just am like standing on this step and doing this,
jumping up.
Uh-huh.
So, anyway, so just a little housekeeping. So we will be back and doing season 4 live for you guys. Sometimes on Fridays at 9.
Sometimes on Tuesdays at 4.
Because you know what? We can.
We in charge.
We're in charge.
We're in charge.
And, you know, Broad knows her limitations and her schedule and her kids and her life. And, you know, and Kim is off jet set and doing the Crime Watch Daily thing.
I am.
Yeah. So before we go, tell people where you are and what you're doing. And then we could tease season 4.
Oh, in general?
Yeah. Like you're still running the youth project.
I'm still running the youth project. I am still doing great stories for Crime Watch Daily. So those come, randomly, so we will be happy to share that when they happen. I am a mom to a 14-year-old high school future NBA star. So we are in gyms everywhere across my town.
And further, you're like travel with
Not
this
yet.
kid.
Yeah, we're heading to. That's why we need the flexibility to adjust, because this weekend I'm out of town to go hopefully bring home a championship trophy for my child.
Right.
I mean, he's supposed to bring home the championship trophy. I'm just going to gloat. Yeah. And you, my friend?
I am still teaching people how to podcast, which is crazy, and video production, and doing my TV thing. And also because this year you and I are focusing, or season 4 coming up, we're focusing more on trending topics and really things that are in the news and things that you care about and really timely. And so we're doing a little bit less of those evergreen topics. You know, we're doing more like, if you have a book, or if we're talking to somebody who has a book, it's a book that's out now and it matters and you want to hear about it, and we're going to bring it to you. But in the meantime, I'm also, for women over 40, have my little group over there called 40 Thrive, F-O-R-T, my big group, F-O-R-T-Y, Thrive. And it's upcoming podcast and content and webinars and online classes for women over 40 who are looking to take life to the next level.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll end up on American Ninja Warrior.
Oh my gosh. What, as like an audience member? Because we've done that before.
Yeah, we didn't make the final cut.
No, Kim and I went to see Ninja Warrior, and it was that celebrity one, which at the time sounded really fun, but then I realized it wasn't what we wanted anyway, because, well, not what I wanted to experience, because I wanted to see actual competition.
Right.
Not like people just tiptoeing and, pretending they won. I don't know, whatever. So that's it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we're excited for season 4 Broadscast Live. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, wishes, hopes, dreams, fantasies, leave them in the comments.
Money.
Oh yeah, money. Send that. But thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time. Bye. Bye.